The sound begins before anything else. A rush of water, clean and purposeful, swirling down porcelain so white it might have been carved from clouds. Then silence. Then breathing, ragged, disbelieving. Hans Müller, 23 years old, Wehrmacht infantry, captured at Kasserine Pass, stands in a bathroom in Camp Carson, Colorado, his hands still on the chrome handle of an American toilet. His fingers shake, not from cold or fear, but from something worse, recognition. In one flush, he has just watched more clean water disappear than his mother collected in a month. The mathematics of it break something in his mind. 7 gallons. Gone. His sister in Stuttgart boils the same water 3 times for washing. His neighbors share wells that run dry by August. And here, in this prison camp bathroom that smells of pine disinfectant and soap. Actual soap, not the gray blocks made from ash. Water flows endlessly, carelessly, magnificently. He flushes again, watching the vortex form, and begins to cry. Not because he is a prisoner, but because he understands, finally, definitively, that Germany has already lost this war. The water tells him everything. In a letter smuggled past censors 3 weeks later, he writes 5 words that will haunt his family forever. We never had a chance. The American heartland sprawls beneath October sun, 1944, and water towers rise like metal gods above every town. In Davenport, Iowa, Margaret Henderson runs her dishwater for 3 full minutes, letting it heat while she gossips on the telephone about rationing. How terrible, only 3 pounds of meat this week. The water runs clear, endless, trusted. She never questions its presence, never counts the gallons pooling in her porcelain sink. 20 miles away, at Camp McCoy, German Corporal Friedrich Bauer watches American guards wash their jeeps with hoses that spray water in glorious, wasteful arcs. He tries to calculate how many liters per minute, how many families could survive on this excess, how many dying of typhoid in bombed Hamburg could be saved by just 1 hour of this American excess. The guards laugh, spraying each other playfully. Water drips from their uniforms like diamonds. Bauer turns away, sick with a knowledge he cannot name. In his homeland, his mother collects rainwater in rusted bathtubs, boils it twice, prays it won't carry disease. His youngest brother died last month, 9 years old, dysentery from contaminated well water. The Americans use more water to wash 1 vehicle than his entire street sees in a week. This is not about moral superiority or wisdom. This is about infrastructure as destiny. Every flush, every faucet, every carelessly running tap is a declaration of power so absolute it doesn't even know itself. By the time Bauer understands this, 20 million Germans are learning to live with less than 2 gallons per person per day. Los Angeles alone uses more water for its lawns than Berlin sees in a year. The disparity is not measured in numbers, but in the collapse of possibility itself. Every German soldier who glimpses this abundance carries home a poison more deadly than any wound, the knowledge that they were sent to fight an empire that weaponized comfort itself. Joseph Goebbels stands at his ministry podium, March 1943, declaring the spiritual superiority of the German people who need less because they are more. The crowds roar approval. Water is bourgeois weakness. Suffering is strength. The cameras roll. The message spreads. Deprivation is virtue. Scarcity is power. But in the same month, at camps across America, 12,000 German prisoners encounter the impossible. Hot showers that never run cold, toilets that flush with pristine water, sinks that deliver water so clean you can drink it without boiling. Private Wilhelm Schmidt, captured in Tunisia, writes in his hidden diary, "They tell us we are the master race, but we shit in holes while Americans flush with water purer than we drink." The contradiction spreads, like disease through the camp networks. Letters home, carefully coded, carry the infection. The stories about America are not propaganda. Uncle Fritz would not believe the bathrooms here. Even their prisoners live better than our officers. The Reich's mythology begins its slow dissolve, not in grand battles but in the simple, humiliating abundance of American plumbing. At Camp Shelby, Mississippi, an entire barracks of German prisoners refuses to believe the showers are real. They suspect tricks, poison, some elaborate psychological torture. It takes 3 days before they trust the water enough to bathe. When they do, several men weep openly. Clean, hot water whenever they want it. Infinite. Impossible. Real. The guards don't understand the tears. How could they? They have never known thirst as ideology, never measured civilization by the distance to the nearest well. For Americans, water is not political. It is simply there, like air or dirt or God. This unconscious plenty is more damaging to Nazi ideology than any propaganda broadcast. The myth of German superiority cannot survive the reality of American excess. By 1944, the propaganda ministry bans all discussion of American living standards. Too late. The knowledge spreads through returning wounded, through Red Cross reports, through the spaces between words in carefully censored letters. The Reich that promised dominion over subhuman enemies has sent its sons to fight a nation where even dogs drink from porcelain bowls. The statistics read like engineering poetry. By 1940, 95% of urban Americans have access to indoor plumbing. Chicago alone processes 3 billion gallons through its water treatment facilities annually. The Tennessee Valley Authority transforms entire regions, electrifying water pumps that bring consistent pressure to millions. Every small town from Oregon to Georgia builds its water tower, that distinctly American monument to abundance. These are not military installations but civilian infrastructure, the baseline of ordinary life. Engineers in Detroit design bathroom fixtures with the same precision used for bomber engines. The Kohler Company produces 3 million toilets between 1941 and 1945, each one using 7 gallons per flush, each flush containing more clean water than most German families see in a day. This is not waste. This is the physical manifestation of industrial supremacy. Kurt Vonnegut, then a young POW, will later write that American power was never in its armies but in its assumptions. The casual certainty that water would always flow, lights would always turn on, systems would always function. The Germans, raised on scarcity disguised as virtue, cannot comprehend this baseline abundance. At the Willow Run bomber plant, workers use 50,000 gallons of water daily just for hand-washing stations. The B-24 Liberators rolling off the assembly line are magnificent, but the real power is in those wash stations, the assumption that cleanliness, comfort, and dignity are prerequisites, not luxuries. German industrial doctrine prioritizes weapons over water, believing suffering creates strength. American doctrine assumes the opposite. Comfortable workers build better bombers. By the time this philosophical difference manifests in military outcomes, it's already too late. The war's outcome was determined not in strategy rooms, but in the moment American planners decided every factory would have flush toilets and drinking fountains. Infrastructure is ideology made physical. Every pipe laid, every water main connected, every sewage system expanded is a bet on a particular future. America bet on abundance and built accordingly. Germany bet on racial will triumphing over material reality. The water tells the story of which bet paid off. In classified reports that won't be declassified until the 1990s, German intelligence admits they underestimated American industrial capacity by a factor of 10. But even this misses the point. It's not about capacity, it's about the assumptions that create capacity. When your baseline assumption is that every citizen deserves clean, running water, you build a civilization capable of producing Liberty ships faster than U-boats can sink them. Lieutenant Colonel James Morrison, Camp Fannin, Texas, records in his personal journal, July 1944, "The Germans seem more amazed by our latrines than our military might. One prisoner spent an hour examining a toilet, taking notes like a scientist. When asked, he said he was trying to understand the American mind through its sewage. Strange people. But the prisoner, Hauptmann Erich Volker, is conducting serious intelligence work. In his notebook, confiscated months later, investigators find meticulous calculations. Water pressure per square inch, gallons per flush, estimated infrastructure requirements to support such waste. His conclusion, written in cramped German script: a nation that can afford to defecate in drinking water has already won. Private First Class Danny Sullivan, guard duty, Camp Polk, Louisiana, writes to his mother, "The Krauts go crazy for our showers. One fellow asked if he could just stand under the hot water for his whole recreation hour. Seemed harmless enough, so I let him. He just stood there, water running over him, crying like a baby. These people are supposed to be conquering the world." In German POW barracks across America, a folklore develops around water. Men trade shower tokens like currency. They hold midnight debates about American excess. Is it decadence or power? They write poems about faucets, compose songs about flush toilets, dream about hot water that never ends. Feldwebel Johann Richter keeps a diary that survives the war. August 3rd. Used the American toilet 6 times today. Not from need, but from wonder. Each flush, I think of Mama carrying buckets from the well, her back bent, her hands cracked from lye soap made from ash. Here they wash their sidewalks with water we would treasure for drinking. The psychological warfare is unintentional but devastating. Every comfort provided to prisoners under Geneva Convention rules becomes a dagger in the heart of Nazi mythology. How can the master race be masters when their enemies treat prisoners better than the Reich treats its own citizens? Letters home struggle to convey the reality without triggering censors. Dear Lisa, the Americans are not what we were told. Their kindness comes from strength, not weakness. They share water like air, assuming it infinite. We were told they were soft. They are soft, the way water is soft, yet it carved the Grand Canyon. By Christmas, 1944, 20,000 German POWs in America have experienced American abundance firsthand. They will return home, eventually carrying a virus more deadly than any biological weapon. Doubt. Not just doubt in victory, but doubt in the entire premise of their civilization. If America can waste what Germany treasures, if comfort can defeat suffering, if ease can overcome will, then everything they believed was inverted. The water flows, clear and constant, dissolving certainty with every drop. Inside the Reich, December 1944, water infrastructure collapses in cascading failure. Allied bombing targets treatment plants, pumping stations, aqueducts. But the true collapse is psychological. Sergeant Otto Hoffmann, invalid home from the Eastern Front, stops at a camp in Pennsylvania for medical treatment. He encounters flush toilets for the first time. Later, in defeated Germany, he tells his family, "We were not defeated by armies. We were defeated by toilets." His son thinks he's gone mad from war trauma, but Otto insists, "You don't understand. They have so much water they shit in it. They shower with water we would kill for." Every American child grows up assuming infinite water. How do you defeat such thinking? The silence that follows contains the entire German catastrophe. In Berlin, families melt snow for drinking water while American GIs overseas complain if their showers aren't hot enough. In Munich, children develop rickets from unwashed food while American camps serve prisoners fresh vegetables cleaned with potable water. The disparity transcends economics. It represents different relationships with reality itself. Frau Gertrude Müller, whose son Hans wrote from Camp Carson, reads his letters aloud to neighbors in their bombed Stuttgart apartment building. "Mother, they have machines that heat water instantly. Not boiled over wood, but instantly hot from metal boxes. The guards wash their hands with soap that smells like flowers. I have forgotten what thirst feels like." The neighbors listen in silence, their own unwashed hands hidden in their laps. Some refuse to believe. American propaganda, surely. But Gertrude sees the truth in her son's handwriting. The slow, careful letters of someone trying to document the impossible. The Third Reich promised transcendence through struggle. America delivers transcendence through plumbing. It's not a contest of ideologies but of baselines. When your baseline is abundance, you innovate from comfort. When your baseline is scarcity, you innovate from desperation. Desperation can win battles, but comfort builds civilizations that win wars. By February 1945, Wehrmacht intelligence reports, classified until 2001, acknowledge that soldier morale collapses faster after capture than after defeat. The reason: exposure to American living standards. One report states, Men who have experienced American imprisonment resist returning to combat. They have seen the enemy's true strength, not in arms but in assumptions. They return speaking of water and soap as if they had glimpsed paradise. Water is the ultimate currency, of power flowing downhill from those who control it to those who beg for it. America controls not through restriction but through such excess that restriction becomes unthinkable. This is power so complete it doesn't recognize itself as power. It simply assumes water, like democracy or breakfast, is what humans deserve. The German conceptualization of power through denial meets the American manifestation of power through provision, and the collision reshapes global consciousness. In Detroit, Henry Ford's factories use more water in a single shift than Dresden sees in a month. Not because they must, but because they can. Because efficiency in America means workers who are clean, hydrated, comfortable. In Germany, efficiency means extracting maximum output from minimum input, human suffering included in the calculation as acceptable wastage. These are not just different approaches but different universes of possibility. Dr. Margaret Whitman, anthropologist, studies German POWs at Camp Forest, Tennessee. Her classified report, 1945. The prisoners exhibit symptoms of psychological displacement upon exposure to American bathroom facilities. Many express shame, anger, confusion. Several stated that flushing toilets made them question whether Germany deserved to win. The abundance of water seems to function as a moral argument they cannot refute. This is conquest through comfort, empire through ease. Every immigrant who arrives at Ellis Island and encounters their first American toilet experiences the same revelation. This is a nation that has solved the essential problems so thoroughly that it has forgotten they were problems. The forgetting is the power. When you no longer remember scarcity, you build from assumptions of plenty. When plenty is baseline, you innovate toward greater plenty. It's a spiral that accelerates with each generation, each flush, each casual turn of a faucet that delivers water like magic. Hans Müller, our Wehrmacht soldier from Camp Carson, returns to Germany in 1946. He finds his mother's house bombed, his sister drawing water from a shell crater. He tries to explain American bathrooms, but the words fail. How do you describe abundance to scarcity? How do you explain water that comes whenever you want a people who plan their days around the well schedule? He gives up, keeps the knowledge like shrapnel in his chest. Painful, permanent, transformative. Years later, during the German economic miracle, when new apartments advertise American-style bathrooms, Hans understands that his country is not recovering from war but converting to a new religion, one that worships the god of unlimited water pressure. The silence after Brandenburg's speech spreads through occupied Germany like groundwater seeping through limestone, invisible but erosive. In Munich, former Luftwaffe pilot Klaus Zimmermann returns from Camp Gruber, Oklahoma, where he spent 2 years maintaining the camp's plumbing system as prisoner labor. He knows more about American pipe threading and water pressure valuation than aerial combat now. His wife asks him about imprisonment. He talks only about water heaters, those magnificent American devices that store 40 gallons of perfectly heated water, ready instantly, inexhaustibly. Imagine, he tells her, never having to plan your bath, never checking if others have used the hot water, never waiting, just turning a handle and receiving what you need. She cannot imagine it. The gap between them widens with every story. He describes ice cream socials at the camp, where prisoners ate desserts that required more refrigeration than most German cities had for medicine. He talks about laundry machines that cleaned clothes while you waited, about dish soap that cut through grease like chemistry made liquid. Each detail is another stone in the wall between who they were and who they must become. His wife stops asking questions. The answers hurt too much. By spring 1947, a secret phenomenon emerges in American intelligence reports. German POWs refusing repatriation. Not for political reasons, not from fear of Soviet retribution, but because they cannot bear to leave American abundance. Private Walter Krauss petitions to stay, writes in broken English, I have learned the flush toilet repair. I know the copper pipe fitting. In Germany is no future for such knowledge. Here I am useful. There I am reminder of defeat. His petition is denied, but thousands share his sentiment. They have tasted what anthropologists will later call comfort addiction, the inability to return to scarcity after experiencing plenty. The American authorities don't understand. How could bathroom fixtures inspire defection? They miss the metaphysics of it. A flush toilet is not just porcelain and pipes. It's a promise that problems can be solved permanently, that discomfort is not noble but unnecessary, that human dignity includes the right to privacy and cleanliness. Once you believe that promise, returning to buckets and outhouses feels like accepting a lie about human limitation. The Marshall Plan architects understand something the military planners missed. Rebuild Germany with American bathrooms, and you rebuild German consciousness. Every new apartment building includes modern plumbing, not as luxury but as baseline. The psychological engineering is deliberate. State Department memo, classified, 1948. The provision of American standard sanitation facilities will do more to prevent communist infiltration than any propaganda campaign. People who shower with hot water rarely embrace revolution. The memo's author, unnamed, understands that comfort is conservative, that ease breeds stability, that flush toilets make better citizens than manifestos. By 1950, Amerikanisch Bad Zimmer becomes Stuttgart's premier selling point for new construction. Former Wehrmacht officers now work as plumbing contractors, installing democracy one pipe joint at a time. In the American Midwest, the victory gardens are plowed under, the ration books burned in celebratory bonfires. Water consumption explodes. Swimming pools in suburbs, automatic sprinklers, car washes on every corner. Los Angeles runs fountains in the desert. Las Vegas builds a city where no city should exist, all testament to the American belief that water, like freedom, is infinite if you engineer it right. Lieutenant Tom Harrison, stationed in occupied Frankfurt, writes home, "The Germans look at our facilities like cargo cultists. They measure everything, sketch diagrams, take notes. One fellow asked if American water was special. I told him it's the same H2O. He didn't believe me, said it must be different if we can waste it so freely. But the German is right, American water is different. It's water that has never known scarcity, water that assumes its own continuance, water that believes in tomorrow. This optimism, flowing through every faucet, dissolves European fatalism more effectively than any occupying army." Dr. Heinrich Müller, no relation to Hans, professor of philosophy at Heidelberg, writes in his journal 1949, "The Americans have achieved what Napoleon and Rome could not, the total colonization of the European mind. Not through force but through bathroom fixtures. Every German who installs a shower thinks he is choosing convenience. In reality, he is accepting a worldview where problems exist to be solved, not endured. This is the end of German Romanticism, killed by hot running water." His colleagues dismiss him as traumatized, but Müller persists. He develops a theory of infrastructural consciousness, the idea that the systems we build shape the thoughts we can think. Roman roads created Roman minds. American plumbing creates American assumptions. The Marshall Plan is not rebuilding Europe but Americanizing it, one flush at a time. The Korean War begins, and new German POWs arrive at American camps. But these are different. North Koreans and Chinese, men who've never seen flush toilets even in propaganda. Their amazement surpasses even German wonder. Camp commanders report. The Koreans spend hours in the latrines, flushing repeatedly, laughing and crying. Several asked if this was heaven. The Germans, now trustees and translators, explain American abundance to Asian prisoners with the weary authority of men who've seen the future and know resistance is futile. Otto Schultz, former Afrika Korps, tells a Chinese officer, "You think you're fighting capitalism. You're fighting indoor plumbing. You cannot win." The Chinese officer, educated in British Hong Kong, understands English but not the metaphor. Schultz elaborates, "Your soldiers believe in sacrifice. American soldiers believe in showers. Which would you rather fight for?" The question requires no answer. Meanwhile, in Bonn, The new West German government prioritizes sewage treatment and water infrastructure above all except housing. Chancellor Adenauer, pragmatic to his core, declares, "Democracy flows through pipes." Critics call it American servility, but Adenauer knows people who trust their water trust their government. By 1955, West Germany has more flush toilets per capita than France. The German economic miracle is not just industrial but intestinal, a nation learning to shit indoors magnificently without shame. East Germany, Soviet-controlled, maintains the old ways. Communal toilets, water rationing, the nobility of shared suffering. The Berlin Wall will divide many things, but nothing more starkly than bathroom quality. West Berliners flush with American confidence. East Berliners carry buckets with Soviet resignation. The metaphor is lost on no one. A generation rises that knows nothing but abundance. German children born after 1950 assume hot showers like their parents assumed war. They cannot imagine scarcity any more than American children can imagine plenty's absence. This is victory more complete than any treaty. The colonization of assumption, the occupation of expectation. When these children rebel in 1968, they protest from university bathrooms equipped with automatic hand dryers and fluorescent lighting. Their revolution assumes infrastructure. They fight for spiritual freedom while standing on pipes that deliver physical freedom they don't even notice. The irony escapes them, but not their parents, who remember when washing was ritual, when cleanliness was achievement, when a flush toilet was miracle enough. Hans Müller, our original Wehrmacht soldier, now 53, works as a plumbing supervisor in rebuilt Stuttgart. His company motto, American standards, German precision. He installs bathroom fixtures in houses that cost more than his father earned in a lifetime. Sometimes, late at night in his own American-style bathroom, he remembers that first flush at Camp Carson. The sound of water swirling away, taking with it everything he'd believed about strength, suffering, superiority. He understands now what he couldn't then. The Americans won because they never knew they were fighting. They just built comfort and assumed everyone would want it. They were right. His daughter, born 1952, speaks perfect English, dreams of visiting Disneyland, takes 40-minute showers that would have hydrated a wartime village. When he tries to tell her about the war, about scarcity, about the time before abundant water, she listens politely but cannot truly hear. The past is another country, and she is a citizen of porcelain prosperity. By 1960, European recovery is measured in flush toilets per capita. The Organization for Economic Cooperation reports, the installation of modern plumbing correlates directly with democratic stability and communist resistance. The report doesn't mention the millions of Wehrmacht veterans who returned from American camps with new definitions of dignity. But their influence saturates every statistic. These men, who once marched for the 1,000-year Reich, now sell American standard fixtures to suburban Germans who've forgotten that water was ever scarce. The transformation is so complete it erases its own history. By 1970, no one remembers the revelation of the flush. It has become baseline, assumed, invisible, which is the ultimate American victory. When your enemy's children cannot imagine living any other way than yours, you have won a war that transcends military conquest. The American century is not measured in missiles or money, but in the distance between desire and satisfaction. America shortened that distance to the space between hand and faucet, need and flush. Every nation that adopts this infrastructure adopts American consciousness. The belief that problems are temporary, solutions permanent, and comfort is birthright, not luxury. The German POWs who wept in American showers were mourning more than their nation's defeat. They were grieving the death of an entire worldview that mistook suffering for strength, scarcity for virtue, hardship for honor. The water washed it all away, revealing the simple truth that humans prefer ease to struggle when given the choice. America gave the choice. The choice chose itself. In 1975, Hans Müller retires. His son, an engineer at Mercedes-Benz, designs car factories with more bathroom facilities than the entire city of wartime Stuttgart. His daughter marries an American serviceman, moves to California where she runs sprinklers on her lawn during drought, because that's what Americans do. Hans visits once. The waste still astounds him, but now it seems less like power than pathology. America has begun to forget that water is precious because it has never known it as scarce. This forgetting, Hans realizes, contains the seeds of future revelation. Someday, America too will learn what Germany learned in those prison camp bathrooms. Abundance is not permanent, infrastructure is not immortal, and water, like empire, flows according to forces greater than human will. But that is future prophecy. In the present of our story, 1946, Hans Müller stands in the ruins of Stuttgart, teaching his neighbors to plumb for the future. He shows them copper fittings, ceramic fixtures, the blueprints of abundance. They resist at first. This is not German, this waste, this excess. But Hans persists with the patience of a man who has seen tomorrow and knows its shape. Oval, porcelain, perpetually clean. This is not about water, he tells them. It's about believing we deserve better than buckets. Slowly, family by family, they believe. They install toilets like Americans, shower like Americans, wash like Americans. Without realizing it, they begin to think like Americans. That comfort is not weakness but wisdom. That ease is not decadence but efficiency. That the highest human achievement is not conquering nature but conveniencing it into compliance. The sound of water runs through all these stories. Rushing, flushing, flowing, falling. It is the sound of assumption made liquid, ideology turned elemental. Every German POW who heard that first American flush heard the future arriving, irresistible as gravity. They could no more stop it than they could stop water seeking its level. And water's level, they learned, is whatever height American engineers decide to pump it. The engineers won the war. The toilets were just their signatures, written in porcelain and chrome, declaring victory with every flush. We have made the impossible ordinary. Now try to fight that. You cannot. No one can. The water always wins, and water, in 1945, spoke American.